Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining today's special class. For people who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Sajana Binil. I'm the founder of Interactive Learning Solutions, and I'm the main business analysis coach here. So today's special class is on requirements prioritization, guys, and we are also live streaming this particular class in YouTube so that more of our subscribers can also benefit from this session. So in today's session, we will discuss requirements prioritization, the significance of requirements prioritization, and we'll discuss about different scenarios in which you will do prioritization as business analyst, and what are some of the common challenges associated with prioritization. Towards the end, I will also walk you through a quiz. So participate in that quiz and try to give the answers to those questions to gauge your understanding on the topic. So yesterday also we had a small quiz towards the end, and today also I have a quiz ready to see how much of the concepts that you learned in today's class actually you were able to absorb those concepts. So we will see that. So first of all, requirements prioritization. As you already know what requirements are, so I'm not getting into the describing what requirements are. But in IT projects, we have different types of requirements, right? We discussed some of those requirements yesterday, and when we have different types of requirement, we also need to understand what's the kind of priority we'll give for each type of requirement, and what's the process that has to be followed. Okay. So requirement prioritization essentially is a process by which you define the importance of a requirement. Okay. And you designate it as critical or high value requirements, and the requirements that you give low priority that has lesser value. So as business analyst, one of the key parameters that we look into is how much of value the requirements give to the end users. Okay. So remember, requirement prioritization is the process of determining the relative importance of your requirements, of your project requirements. Now, why is it so important to have to allocate importance or rank these requirements? Projects often have limited time, resources, and budget. That's the reason it is very essential for us to focus on what will make it more impactful. Okay. So prioritization helps us align the product or solution with the business goals. So with the limited time, resources, and budgets that we have, how much of those customer needs and business goals we were able to satisfy, that should be our that should be one of the key points that we are focusing on. So it minimizes risk by addressing the most critical requirements early. Okay. So I told you about the importance of requirements. The next, to further take you through the core idea of prioritization, let me take the example of a hospital management system. Okay. So let's say you are in a project where you're developing a hospital management system. Now, a hospital management system is a very huge system, but in that system, if you're prioritizing critical features like patient registration, emergency handling, over optional features like theme customization, that will make more sense, right? Because something like patient registration, patient booking a appointment, consultation appointment with the doctor, that has more value than if you try to work on requirements that consists of customizations that you can make for a personalized experience on the portal. Okay. Now, when it comes to prioritization, understand there are different types of techniques that you can use to prioritize your project requirements. Okay. And we will slowly get into the techniques. Let me show you some slides to further make you aware of these techniques. So different types of project have different needs, and not all prioritization methods are suitable for every project. Goes without saying, right? So as a business analyst, you should be knowing which technique will be best suited for your project, which technique will help you adapt better to the project context that you're working on, the stakeholders who are involved, and the available data that you have. Now, this becomes a little tricky for beginner BAs to understand, but once you understand the prioritization techniques in detail, it becomes a little easy for you to categorize which technique you should be following. So first and foremost, obviously, we have the Moscow technique. How many of you have heard of the Moscow technique? Type me in the chat box if you have heard about the Moscow technique, a very, very popular prioritization technique. It's very popular. Now, this kind of prioritization technique, which is very simple, can be used either in agile or waterfall method. So it's not confined to any particular methodology, but it simply says, as the abbreviation goes, must have features, should have features, could have features, and won't have features. So must have naturally is the mandatory features that we are talking about, non-negotiable requirements that we are talking about, without which the project cannot move forward. Should have features are important features that should be included, but they're not so critical. They're not so critical. So that will be the next order in priority. So they can be deferred for later if time and resources are constrained. Okay. So must-have features are the features that we look at as top priorities. Could have features are again nice to have features that can be added if there is enough time and budget. So you can add those could have features. Won't have features again. These requirements you might feel if they're not there, then why do we even need to list them? See, won't have requirements are explicitly excluded from the scope of a particular project phase or release. So your project scope document might have a mention of this, but it might also include that because we do not have specific enough time and resources for this particular phase, these requirements are deferred for the next release or deferred for the next phase. Okay, so those are the requirements that were defined early in the project, but the client along with the vendor has decided to move those requirements to a later release due to some reasons. Okay, so must have, should have, could have, and won't have. Very, very common prioritization technique. Now, some of the examples, when you look at the examples, must have feature, an example of a must have feature is user registration, having a secure login, should have user profile customization, and email notification. So look at this segregation with the help of any portal. Okay, let's say LinkedIn or Facebook. Okay, so registering and creating your account on the portal is a must have, without which you will not have people coming to the portal, right? Once the registration is done, the person should be able to log in and access his account. So that's both are must have. Should have profile customization. You want to customize your profile in using XYZ things. That is also required. The profile customization is also required, but it's not so critical. Again, email notifications are not so critical. Could have is personalized recommendations coming from the portal. It might be job recommendations or some new posts somebody has posted. So those posts must be coming to you because you have subscribed to that interest area. So it could have, but it could have features can be deferred for later. Won't have integration with other third-party apps for the first release. Okay, so won't have a typical example is given. The portal is expected to be to get integrated with other third-party apps, but we are not doing that for the first release. We have deferred it to the next release. The key benefit of Moscow here is it's a very simple technique and very easy to implement. Okay. It provides clarity on what is essential versus what is optional. Okay. What is absolutely necessary. Hmm. So when we used to apply this prioritization technique, I used to have prioritization calls with my customer, and we used to we used to take a export of all the user stories from Jira, and we used to have this prioritization calls. And prior to the call, I used to do some homework. Uh, from my side, I used to gauge how much of value the customer is going to get with specific user stories. So, and based on my understanding, I used to give a ranking to those requirements. And later on in the call, I used to discuss it with the customer, discuss it with the product owner. So this is also a good practice. Never get into a prioritization call unprepared, because if you go unprepared for into a prioritization call, most of the things which your product owner or your customer says, you simply agree to it, okay, without applying your brains. So, as a business analyst, we are taught these prioritization techniques because we also jointly play a key role in prioritization. Many beginner BAs do not understand this concept. They feel prioritization, the authority to prioritize requirements lies with the customer. They feel the product belongs to the customer, so he has the right to define the priority. That's not the case. You will see many times your customer doesn't know how to prioritize. They are not aware of these business analysis techniques, guys. If the person that you're front-ending, the customer, he comes from a business analysis background, he might be having knowledge about this, but that is never the case. If you are having a client side BA in certain projects, larger projects, the client also has business analyst on the other side to in order to review the work that we are doing. I worked on one such project, also large project, where the client had also deployed business analysts at their side, and those BAs were responsible for reviewing our work. Okay, so if there is a client side BA, they will understand the significance of prioritization, and they will use specific techniques for prioritization. But if you are just front ending a business stakeholder, they have absolutely no clue about prioritization techniques. You will see they will just go randomly and pick any requirement and say, okay, this is high priority because so and so stakeholder to whom this requirement belongs to, he is high in authority, he has a larger influence on this project, so he said this is an urgent need and we have to go ahead with it. Okay, that's how in most of the projects when I've seen the business stakeholders prioritize requirement, they prioritize based on which end user, which business unit stakeholder is pressing his requirement first, you know. So so the requirements that are prioritized depends upon the pressure that they experience from other end, from the end users that they have been coordinating with, because they don't know these prioritization technique. That's the reason in our business analysis world we are educated on these techniques so that we can give our insights to the product owner or the customer and educate them that this is not the right way of prioritization. We need to understand how much of value each of these user stories or each of these requirements, functional requirements, is going to give the end users. So get into a joint call with the customer and discuss the prioritization. Make him aware of the prioritization technique that should be used. And when you're explaining the prioritization technique, you yourself should be very thorough with that technique. That means not textual knowledge. Textual knowledge does not much work when it comes to a project implementation, but you should be very thorough with the hardcore knowledge of which requirement has to be picked as high priority, which medium priority, which low priority. Okay. So be a guide to your customer and simply do not go by what the customer says, which is high priority and low priority. If you blindly follow what your customer wants, you will see at the end of a release, your team might have worked on a bunch of features that are not satisfying the business goals, but they are just nice to have features. Okay, very few features out of that will be giving some value. The rest of the features would be those features which could have actually be pushed to a later release because they are not giving significant value. Okay. So in today's exercise, like I said, we have a quiz. In that quiz, we have small project scenarios which will make you aware. If you have understood this concept from B thoroughly, it will help you with that application knowledge also. Okay. So first prioritization technique that we spoke about was Moscow. The second prioritization technique we are going to talk about is Cano. Okay. What is the Cano model? Now, the Cano model focuses on customer satisfaction. So the Cano model says that you have to categorize requirement based on the impact of that feature on the customer's experience. Okay. So in Moscow, we had must have, should have. Here, Cano focuses more on the customer's experience. And these are the different high-level categories that Cano suggest that you should be using while using this technique for prioritization. Basic needs, which of course is similar to our must-have, which we had in Moscow. The basic needs says features that the customer always expects. So if those features are absent, customer will be highly dissatisfied. Dissatisfied. Okay. Second, performance needs. Okay. These are features that customers explicitly desire. And the absence of that will directly affect the customer satisfaction. Then we have the excitement needs, which are the delighters. Now, features that exceed customer expectations and create excitement, they are called the excitement needs. So three broad level categories we have: basic needs, performance need, and excitement needs. Okay, understand these three categories. So in the Cano model, before I go to the next one, in the Cano model, like I said, it is a customer satisfaction that is given priority. Hmm? Basic needs you can always understand by the Moscow's rule, must have features. But to understand performance needs and excitement needs, we will have one small case study coming in. Things will get much clearer when you go through that particular case study. So the features that are going to a feature that you roll out to the customer which exceeds his expectations will be an absolute excitement for him. Okay, and but the absence of that feature will not create a dissatisfaction for him. That's excitement. Remember that. Everyone with me so far? Type yes in the chat box if you are with me, if you have understood so far the two prioritization techniques that we are speaking about. Great. So now let me also walk you through another technique called as the 100-point technique. There is a simple yet very effective technique. 100-point method is a simple but very effective technique. It involves distribution of points across a list of requirements. the most. So it distributes 100 points. So that's why it's called a 100-point method. So you distribute 100 points across a list of requirements. So just imagine you have an Excel sheet where all your user stories are listed, and this 100 point you have to distribute to various user stories based on the criticality and the value of that particular requirement. You give a So this is a point based system. Stakeholders allocate a total of 100 points across the requirements based on their importance. So here in this particular exercise, what you can do guys, if you're doing this 100-point method, it's ideal. It's very, very ideal in scenarios where there are conflicts in priority. I found this technique very, very effective when there are conflicts in priority. You might be coordinating with multiple business units, and each and every business unit might be trying to push their requirement and show that this is of high priority. Okay, this is of maximum priority. Now, many a times in these prioritization calls, when there are multiple parties and we are trying to make them understand why the other requirement should be taken for delivery, sometimes it's difficult to explain stakeholders, right? For them, everything is high priority. So what we do is we send out this Excel sheet which consists of the requirements that have to be prioritized for the upcoming sprint, and ask all the stakeholders to give points for each and every requirement. Okay, and the points out of 100, how much would you give each and every requirement? And based on that, we try to understand. We put all of those points together and see how many requirements, what's the average score each of those requirements has got, and then we do the sequencing in terms of priority. So towards the beginning of the call, explain your requirements. Towards the beginning of the call, explain the stakeholders that in this particular method, we are supposed to rate based on the criticality of that particular requirement, the how much of a pressing need you have for that particular requirement, and what is the value it gives. And then ask people to vote for each and every requirement, and then you can come to a ballpark figure as to, okay, which requirement will go first for delivery. So this is very cool way where you can't settle these conflicts, where there might be some senior stakeholders participating in the call, and as a BA you are not able to make them understand why the other requirement should be taken as high priority. They will be, certain stakeholders, they don't listen to you. They feel they are, like I said, for every stakeholder their requirement is of high priority. So they might try to push their requirement, and if you're not able to convince, if you are getting into this kind of a call where you're not able to convince certain stakeholders are pushing their requirements, and as a BA you feel that nobody's hearing you, 100-point method is one method which will um kind of calm everybody, and you can tell them that we'll go based on consensus of the entire group. The requirements that get a higher vote, that will be taken first for delivery, and the rest one will be taken later. Common prioritization challenges. Take a look at this. What are some of the common prioritization challenges? Number one, conflicting stakeholder interest. This is always a big bottleneck. If there are conflicts in the stakeholder interest, example, marketing team prioritizing a feature that enhances brand visibility versus the operation team focusing on other features that improve the operational efficiency. Okay, this is a typical example was which I was giving you, that in a prioritization call, if you are experiencing a lot of conflict where marketing team is trying one particular team is trying to prioritize their set of features, and the other team is saying that no, this is of high priority. So uh, the solution to this: use a structured framework to provide transparency and justification for prioritization. Okay, like I said, you can pick and choose the technique based on the scenario that you're experiencing in your project. Number two, limited resources. Constraints like budget, time, and team capacity often prevent addressing all requirements. Okay, so if there are a lot of constraints in your project, you will have very limited resources. You'll have to work with those limited resources, and then prioritization becomes a big challenge for you. So, solution for that: focus on very, very high value and high impact requirements. Changing priorities. Agile projects often face this problem. Uh, in agile projects, we say that change is a way of life, and because these our product evolves based on customer needs and based on changing market dynamics, the priorities also change. Okay. So we need to reassess those priorities after sprints. So every sprint, after every sprint, we reassess the priority. Yes, this is a very, very important point. I want to stress on that. Never ever, when you are prioritizing at the beginning of a project, you might have a bucket list of requirements and you might have given a priority to that. But it is very, very essential for you to reassess those priorities every sprint, because you might see some new requirement came up which is very urgent. We have to send it to production very early, and because of that, the previously prioritized one and now gets a lower priority. Okay, changing market dynamics is something that we have to be constantly aware of. Okay, based on the customer's needs and the market dynamics, so many a times we reassess the prioritization and change the order based on certain discussions with our customer. So it's never ever think that whatever has been defined as a priority towards the beginning of the project, that should never be changed. No, prioritization is an ongoing exercise, remember that. So every sprint, sit with your product owner for the prioritization exercise to understand if the priority of a user story now has changed or it remains the same. So that's point number three: changing priority, lack of objective criteria. Okay. Lack of objective criteria means if you do not have a measurable criteria based on which you're going to give priority to the requirements, then that you're doing a very shoddy job in requirements. You're not doing a very good job in requirements because you don't know how to measure it against the business goals. Overwhelming number of requirements. Again, if you are having a bucket list of requirements, a long list of requirements, prioritization looks like a very daunting task. Very a good solution that's mentioned over here is you might want to segregate your requirements into different broad level categories as new features that has to be rolled out, enhancements to the existing features, or fixes. So when you group your requirements to these different categories, your long list of requirements kind of get sorted. So then you can sit and discuss with the customer that for the upcoming sprint, we are planning to target these many defect fixes, these many enhancements, and these many new features. Okay, so you can to when you have created this broad level category, it gives your customer also very good visibility as to from that long list of requirements how much will be done in the upcoming sprint. Okay, sometimes when you don't do this categorization, what happens, one entire, I've seen in some projects, one entire sprint was consumed only defect fixes. Okay, there were so many defects listed in the requirements list, everything in the backlog that's listed. The backlog consists of new requirements, enhancement, and even defects, right? So many times teams, because they don't do this categorization, they end up working only on defects. And towards the end of it, they then realize towards the end of the sprint, okay, we did not work on a single new feature. So remember this. These are some of the common challenges you might face in your project. I believe this concept of prioritization is very clear for everyone. Everyone, please type in the chat window what are the three techniques that we saw in today's class. The three different techniques. Okay, yes, Moscow Cano, 100 point. Correct. Great. Also understand learning theory about this prioritization is one part. Learning the hardcore implementation of how requirements have to be picked up from the bucket is another is another game altogether. Okay. Like for example, let me give you an example of a mobile app development. Suppose you're working on a project which involves a mobile app development. Now, if you have not done a good job in prioritization, you will see your team spends months working on non-critical features, such as some animations that should come on top of that app, some advertisement banners, some promotions. Nowadays, when you open the app, that's the first thing that pop-ups, right? So your team must have wasted time working on those animations and those promotional pop-ups, some notifications that should go to the customer. So if you've not done a good job in prioritization, your team starts working on these kind of non-critical features, and the core functionality of user login, registration, payment processing, all of that is kept on hold. Many times I've seen projects start working on these non-critical features because they feel they don't have much clarity on the critical features. This again is a very wrong approach. If you don't have uh, clarity, if the stakeholders are not giving you much clarity on the critical features, how it should work, it is essential for you to sit down with the stakeholders and nail it down, give them suggestions, give them mm, new approaches, new solutions from your side based on what you have seen in other apps, and that will help them put their thoughts together. But never start your team to work on non-critical features just because the critical features are not ready. The requirements are not in the correct format, and that's the reason your team starts working on non-critical. That's a very wrong approach. Now, let's I will take you through a quiz now. Okay, let me see how much of today's class were you able to absorb. Question number one. Which of the following best describes the purpose of Moscow method? Which of the following best describes the purpose of the Moscow method in requirement prioritization? To allocate a set number of points, to categorize requirements into must have, should have, to assess customer satisfaction by categorizing requirements, to evaluate. Okay, people have written option. Yes, that's correct. This was pretty straightforward. Now we'll have some case scenarios also coming in. So just hold on. Okay. This will take you a longer time to read, but definitely read it. A team is developing a new e-commerce website and has a limited budget and time. A team is developing a e-commerce website and has limited budget and time. The marketing team is adamant about prioritizing advanced search filters, while the technical team suggests focusing on site security and payment processing. Using Moscow method, which of the following would you do you feel is the best categorization for site security and payment processing? What is the category that you would like to allocate site security and payment processing to? So here we have a scenario of conflicting requirements, conflicting priorities. Okay, people have typed in. Okay, I believe you did not see the type of project. It's an e-commerce website. Some of you have, so hidden in the case study will be the answer to it, obviously. In an e-commerce website, site security and payment processing is an absolute must have. Don't you think so? Would you like to visit a e-commerce website that does not have security, does not have any payment mechanism? What's the use in going to that website, right? So that's must have. Take a look at this question. During a project, stakeholders are asked to allocate 100 points across a list of 10 requirements. One requirement is considered critical for the project success and receives 40 points, while the other is low priority feature and gets only 5 points. What does this point allocation indicate? Okay. The meaning of this point allocation, you have to find that out. The requirement with 40 points is less important. Team has difficulty in understanding. Requirements with 40 point is considered more critical. The points are allocated randomly. See the answers. Yes, C, the requirements with 40 points is considered to be much more critical. Let's look at the fourth one, which talks about our Kano model. You're working on a software development project where some features like real-time chat support would be liked by customers but aren't critical for initial launch. Others, like basic search functionality, are required for the product to be functional. Now, how will you categorize these requirements using Kano model? How will you categorize the real-time chat support? Okay, we have got a mixed response here. So that's C. Excitement needs, yeah. It will be an absolute delighter for the customer if they get or real-time chat support, but it's not absolutely necessary for the product to be functional, right? That's how you are to compare. Is it absolutely necessary for the product, for the website to go live? Do you need a real-time chat support? Not necessarily. So that was the set of questions for prioritization. So today you learned about prioritization, but business analysis, remember guys, business analysis involves mastering techniques like gap analysis, requirements gathering, requirements analysis, validation, drawing visual models, risk management, and continuous stakeholder communication. Okay. These topics require practice and mentorship to truly master it. In the real world, requirements are prioritized today, may change tomorrow due to market dynamics. That's a reality. Okay, that's the reason I told you, don't ever think at the beginning of the project, whatever priority you and your business stakeholder has committed to, that is a final priority. Every sprint, you have to go and reassess the priorities. So the requirement priorities that you have given today may change tomorrow due to market dynamics or stakeholder needs. So when you learn business analysis, when you are in the process of transitioning into a business analyst role, it is very essential you understand how these prioritization techniques have to be applied on the projects. How many of you here are in a career transition mode? Type T in the chat box if you are in the career transition mode. So many of you. So it's very essential for you to be prepared for this role thoroughly. Otherwise, like I said, the reason we run these special classes is to increase your awareness about these business analysis topics, because the more people from different roles are coming into this profession, it's also essential for us to impart as much as knowledge to you guys, so that you do a good job in your project and you do not damage the product that you are building for your customer. Okay. And because you all are in a transition mode, coming from a different role, understanding how IT project requirements are prioritized will take some time. But it will definitely, you'll be able to adapt to these approaches if you get good guidance. So, in my experience, working with large clients like JP Morgan, the solution we create has to be constantly refined. Okay. And the reason in my career I was able to nail down the issues related to prioritization and everything is because I had a mentor. I was able to collaborate with other senior analysts in the project, and also the senior leader from our organization constantly mentored us about these challenges that we'll come across. So we always had a fallback mechanism by which we could approach somebody if you are confused about how to give priority to this, or if we are experiencing conflicts in priorities, stakeholders are simply not agreeing. So just imagine you are caught up in a call with couple of stakeholders, and none of those stakeholders are listening to you. You are defining one set of priority to them, but they're saying no, my requirement is of high priority, and I believe that has the maximum value. You have to roll it out first. Many a times beginner BAs, they bend down to that kind of pressure, because they don't know how to handle customers who are a little arrogant or a little difficult to handle. So, prioritization, although the techniques of the prioritization appear to be very simple, you need to have good client handling skills along with the prioritization knowledge to essentially implement it in your project. Okay. So, for all the career transition people, the the way in which you can smoothly transition into a business analyst role and ensure that you are you're delivering good work to your customer is always to have guidance from a senior person who has spent several years in the business analysis world. Because as industries adopt new technologies and methodologies, your role as a business analyst is going to evolve. Now, even now, we are seeing that evolution of a business analyst role. Many organizations are now want a person who can work in a dual role of a BA come product owner. Many organizations are. So we are seeing our role getting evolved. And in the coming years, also, you'll see an evolution happening in the business analyst role, where a business analyst, our role is becoming more and more significant. We are getting additional responsibilities. That's how the transformation is happening. So when you transition into this particular role, if you do not have the essential skills that are required to handle clients, to understand what kind of how you need to communicate with them, and how you yourself need to do a prioritization, it becomes very, very challenging for you to deliver on the project as well as remain competitive in the job market. So when I transitioned into a business analyst role, I didn't just learn through books. You know, I had mentors who helped me refine my skills in real-time projects. They taught me how to deal with clients, how to facilitate meetings effectively, and how to manage priorities, multiple priorities, without losing sight of the project goals. Okay. So that's the reason always I have believed in mentorship. And that's the reason I've been guiding and mentoring as many students as possible when they are starting their business analysis career afresh. I've been educating them. And that's the reason we have these special classes also, so that we can bring up your knowledge also to the level that you are able to independently deliver in the projects. So for all the transition people who would like to know the step-by-step way in which you have to follow to successfully transition into a business analyst role, our Thursday webinar is happening tomorrow, 8 p.m. People who have already attended our Thursday workshops, you need not attend, but the other people who have never attended, be a part of that, because there we speak about the plan, prepare, practice framework, how you need to plan your career move into a business analyst role, what level of preparation goes into it, what level of preparation, what you need to do. Any time when you are transitioning from a different role into a business analyst role, there will be some skills that you are lacking. So we will make you aware of what are those skills that are lacking inside you and how you can bridge the gap. So plan, prepare, practice, where you understand the three essential components that's required to transition into a business analyst role. How you can plan, how you can prepare yourself, and how you can practice these concepts before you get into a real-time project. How does a BA know which technique to use? That's one question that's come up. That's reason we are giving you knowledge about what each technique is all about. So based on, it's totally depends upon the project context. You cannot categorize projects saying that, okay, for these kind of projects, this technique is always used. For the B category of projects, this is used. No, you can't do that. It all, that's the reason I said theoretical knowledge of requirement prioritization just helps you understand the concepts. Okay. When you actually do that, that's when you realize, okay, this type of prioritization I need to use based on, I'm going to use these type of prioritization because my project demands that. Okay, so it depends upon several factors: the complexity of your requirements, and the criticality, the stakeholders involved, the nature of your project. Lots of factors we consider before we decide to go ahead with a particular prioritization technique. I gave you an example of the 100-point method, where I told you that if you feel that you're not able to get consensus from the stakeholders, 100-point is a very good method where you can get everybody's consensus. But it's totally up to the BA. Based on several parameters, we come to the conclusion that this is the right technique for our project. Shanti, attend our Thursday workshop tomorrow, 8 p.m. And you will be given that step-by-step mechanism by which we help students transition into a business analyst role. Okay. And those of you who want more of an implementation knowledge. We also run capstone projects where you can work hand in hand with us on capstone projects and experience the prioritization, experience change management, experience requirements gathering, and you get to know, okay, what where to apply what. Okay. So if you are looking more for implementation knowledge, yes, I also run capstone projects for that. Yeah, don't worry. For if you are from a support role, several support roles we have transitioned into business analyst role. Okay, so you will get complete guidance in tomorrow's workshop where you will do the skill gap assessment exercise. That gives you idea about what skills you have. Many of you have doubts because you feel that am I good enough for this role? You don't know what exactly are the expectations of the role. So I'll explain you the entire job profile of a business analyst and then take you through the skill gap assessment exercise where you'll be able to list down what skills you currently have. You yourself will do that exercise, not me, but I will present a skill matrix, and that will make you aware of what are the transferable skills you bring to the table. So when you have transferable skills, then you should have no question about how you will make the transition, because transferable skills because of the transferable skills you have the authority to apply for a business analyst role. So many of you here might be thinking that why will any company consider me for a BA role when my current role is not that of a BA? Companies do consider, guys. If you go to our website, there are several success stories. Those are of students who have successfully transitioned and working in different roles in different MNCs they're working in as business analysts. So if they have been able to do it, why can't you do it? So companies are very open to accept you in business analyst role, even if your current role is not that of a BA. You don't need to fake anything. You don't need to fake it. You have to be very honest with what your current role is. And because you have transferable skills, you will be considered for a business analyst role. But the first thing is about having good knowledge of business analysis, right? Otherwise, you will be kicked out of the interview itself. You'll not be able to answer any of those questions. So forget about it then. So your first job is to get that knowledge that's required to crack the interview. That's the first step. So for that, we will take you through the plan, prepare, practice framework, which will be the answer to all your questions. I think I am. We're done with it. Remember, guys, in the community group itself, the link will come for tomorrow's class, 8 p.m. It will be a different link. So don't join this special class link. It will be a different link that will be shared to you. Most of you might have already received WhatsApp messages, but if you have not, you will be receiving by tomorrow morning. Okay. So we'll give you a complete plan over there. Okay. Just hold on and you will get a complete plan. Okay. So thank you so much for attending these special classes. We'll try to bring in more of these special classes where I can liaise with you and understand what your concerns are in terms of your career, as well as give you more education about business analysis. Thank you so much.